Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum. Okay, we continue to chapter 2, that is organization as a social system. This chapter can be found in the textbook also in chapter 2, on page 25 and above. Okay, so these are the things that we will learn for this chapter. The first one is what is social system. Okay, this chapter comes from your chapter 1, and we have covered the organization as a social system. That is one of the nature of the organization. So basically what you understood in that part for the chapter. So that is the same thing for item number 1 here. Then we go to the concepts of social system. Concepts of social system here, it is where you need to understand a few terms related to social system. Okay, terma-terma yang perlu difahami sahaja, and situations, terms and situations. So I call it as concepts. Next, we will cover role and role conflicts, and finally status and status symbols. So this chapter is actually very quite an easy chapter where you need to learn only the terms. Most of the items covered here are the terms. So now let's define social system. Okay, we have defined this in chapter 1 under organization as a social system. So let's look again what is the meaning briefly. So social system is a complex set of human relationships interacting in many ways. So basically social system is the relationships and also interactions, or you can add here communications that we can find in an organization. So when people are interacting and communicating and having relationships, when they are working together as an organization, that is called as they are in a social system. Okay, so when I teach you in class face to face, I talk to you, you talk to me, so we have the communication and interaction, so we are in a social system. So very simple. Okay, now we go straight away to the concepts of social system. As I said before in the introduction, for the concept of social system here, it refers to the terms, terma-terma, and also situations. When people are in a social system, definitely there are situations that they are in. So these terms or these situations are called as the concepts here. Okay, so the first one is social equilibrium. Okay, social equilibrium. Equilibrium comes from the word equal. Equal means balance. Okay, so system is said to be in social equilibrium when there is a dynamic working balance among its interdependent parts or subsystem. Okay, the key word here is working balance. So social equilibrium is one situation that we can see when people are working together and they are communicating and having relationships. Okay, so you need to focus on this working balance and also the interdependent parts here. So interdependent parts here, they refer to the subsystems. So what is meant by subsystem? It refers to the department that we can find in the organization. You know what is department? Okay, for example, in an organization we have HR department, marketing department, and finance department. So these are called as the subsystem. So we can see this in the organization chart. Okay, so every department here will have its own manager. So up here is the top manager or the CEO. Okay, so where can we see the social equilibrium here? Okay, so this can be seen in these interdependent parts or the departments. So in an organization, in order to achieve the goal, so definitely all these departments, HR, marketing, and finance, will have to work together. So when they work together, definitely they will have to form relationships, they will have to interact and communicate with one another. Okay, if when all these departments, when they are working together, they work without having no conflict at all, meaning that they can work very well together. tak ada salah faham, tak ada masalah langsung di antara department ataupun subsystems ni. So that is called a situation of social equilibrium. They are in a working balance. Maksudnya mereka bekerja dengan baik, balance. There is no hiccups or no conflicts arise di antara department. So is it possible to achieve social equilibrium in an organisation? Yes, it is possible, but it is very difficult to achieve. Why? Because we are human beings. We have our own attitudes and behavior. So it is not easy for us to easily work with other people. Okay? So in most situations, the subsystems here, or the departments or the interdependent parts here, they are in the social disequilibrium. Apa maksud social disequilibrium? Social equilibrium is a situation where the departments here, when they are working together, or the subsystems here, when they are working together, there are always conflict. Selalunya ada konflik. Konflik tu maksudnya ada masalah lah di antara satu department dengan department yang lain. Okay, for example, finance here involves money. Okay, the job function to be performed by finance department is involving money. Definitely finance is having a goal to reduce the cost. What is the job of marketing department? Definitely they have to do sales, a lot of sales, and they have to promote the product in order to increase the sales, promote. So in order to do promotion, they need a lot of money in order to do the job. So definitely they will have to go finance department to get the money, to release them some money. But finance, they have their own job function, that is to reduce the cost. So this is where the conflict will happen. Finance want to reduce the cost or reduce the budget, and yet marketing asks for more money from finance department. So there will be conflict between these two departments, which leads to this social disequilibrium. Until marketing department can work very well with finance, and marketing can accept the new goal of finance, that is to reduce cost, and they won't ask for more money anymore. So they are in good working relationship, then only they will achieve this situation, that is social equilibrium. Okay, so just remember, it is very hard to achieve social equilibrium state, but most of the situations organization face or encounter social disequilibrium. Okay, the next concept of social system is called as psychological and economic contracts. Please turn to page 28. You can see the explanation given on that page. So let's define first. Okay, by the word contract here, it means the agreements. Okay, so the agreements here must have two parties. So in this case, psychological and economic contracts are the agreements formed between an employer and an employee. So let's look at the definition for this. So these contracts are agreements made between an employer and an employee on what to give and also what to receive from each other. Okay, so agreement between these two parties, employer and also the employee, on what? On what the agreement is about? On what to give and also what to receive. So these two covers this one. Okay, it's covered by this one. So this definition covers both psychological and economic contract. So another definition which you can also find in other textbook, it is a set of expectation on what to give and what to receive in the course of working relationship between an employer and also an employee. So the definition here use set of expectation. Okay, so how to explain psychological and economic contract clearly? Okay, I'm going to draw to you just using this pointer. Okay, so psychological and economic contract is formed between an employee and also an employer. So this is the employee. This is the employer. Okay, I write in short, employee and also the employer. Okay, when this employee comes and join the employer, bila employee ni diterima bekerja oleh employer ni, pekerja diterima oleh majikan, so automatically this employee will have a set of expectation. Set of expectation here means what is in that person's mind, benda apa yang difikirkan dalam minda dia, tu dipanggil expectation, jangkaan, harapan. Okay, so when this employee is hired by the employer, this employee expect to give something to the employer. To give, expect to give. To give what? To give knowledge, skills, experience, time, effort, and so on. So this is what this employee expects to give to the employer once the employee here is hired by the employer. So this is called as expectation to give, and this refers to the psychological contract. Psychological contract. Ini dipanggil psychological contract. Jangkaan ataupun harapan yang nak diberikan oleh seorang pekerja bila mana pekerja ni diambil bekerja oleh employer. Why is it called a psychological contract? Because it only happens in this employee's mind. Benda ni hanya berlaku dalam kepala, not written, tidak ditulis. Bila employee diambil bekerja, the employee here will not write on a piece of paper, okay, I have to give my knowledge, my skill, experience and time to the manager, to the employee. No. The employee only has in his mind that he has to give his knowledge, his experience, his skills, because he is now hired by the employer. So this is called a psychological contract. Okay, the expectation to give, this one, what to give. Then, once the employee here has decided to give all this, which we call as the psychological contract, to the employer, now this employee again expect what? Expect to receive something from the employer. Expect to receive. Okay, so this is called as an expectation to receive. So what to receive? The expectation to receive. So it is in a form of salary, bonus, and also the benefits, other benefits. Why is it called so this expectation to receive from the by the employee from the employer, once the employee has given all these knowledge, skills and so on, this is called as the economic contract. Okay, this is called as the psychological contract. So this is the economic contract. So this is the expectation to receive. This is this one. Okay, now for this economic contract, the example salary, bonus and so on here, this is written. It doesn't happen in the employee's mind. Bukan employee ni hanya memikirkan, okay, employer kena bagi gaji sebanyak 2,000 and so on. No. The employer, once the employee hired this employee, the employer will come up with a contract, an employment contract. So it is a piece of paper stating all the salary benefits to be received by the employee. If the employee agrees with the salary and the benefits to be given, then the employee will sign on that paper. That is called as employment contract. So the economic contract here happens or can be seen on a piece of paper. Okay, so that is about psychological and economic contract. So let's see what are the differences between these two, economic and psychological contract. Okay, psychological contract is unwritten agreement. So as I said just now, why it is not written, bukan bertulis, bukan agreement yang bertulis, because of it happens only in employee's mind. Benda tu hanya berlaku dalam kepala employee. Once employee is hired by the employer, employer start thinking, okay, I have to give this and that and that and this to my employer now because I am already hired. So employee ni takkan tulis on a piece of paper, I have to give my time from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day. No, that will not be written. Only happens in employee's mind, so it is unwritten. On the other hand, the economic contract is a written agreement. As I said, the employer will come up with the employment contract, and it will state the salary, how much, on a piece of paper. What are other benefits to be received by the employee? Everything is written on a piece of paper, and the employee here will have to sign. So that paper is called as the employment contract. So economic contract is written. So this is the first difference. Second difference between psychological and economic contract is psychological contract is automatically formed. Automatically formed here means automatically the employee will start have the expectation in his mind. Okay, let's say I hire you as my employee now. Now you start thinking automatically, I have to give my effort, I have to give my time, I have to give my skills, knowledge and everything. So it happens automatically. Secara automatik agreement tu berlaku. You dah tahu dah, bila saya ambil bekerja, okay, you know automatically you have to give all the things that you have inside you to the organisation that hires you. While the economic contract here, it is non-automatically formed. Okay, takkan berlaku economic contract selagi employee tu tak sign the employment contract. Okay, the employment contract states the salary, how much to be given to the employee, 2,000 let's say. What are other benefits, vacation benefits, insurance benefits and so on will be stated on this employment contract. If employee agrees to all the benefits to be received, employee will sign. Then only this economic contract will be formed. Selagi employee tu tak sign the employment contract saying that he agrees to the salary and other benefits to be received, then the economic contract here is not formed. So takkan berlaku economic contract selagi there is no signature of the employee stating that he agrees to the benefits to receive. Okay, down here is the the differences in terms of example. So I have mentioned this in the explanation before. So these are the 3 points that you can use as the differences between psychological and economic contract. Now we go to roles, also on page 28. Role here means peranan. You can understand it also as the responsibility of each person. So the right definition for role is, it is a prescribed or expected behavior associated with a particular position or status in a group or organisation. Each role calls for different types of behavior. So the definition here is saying, once we hold a particular position over here, once we hold a particular position inside an organisation, we are expected to show certain kind of behavior. So that is called as a role. For example, our position here is a manager. So as a manager, we have to show certain kind of behavior. Definitely the behavior here is different from another position who is a clerk. We'll have to show a different kind of behavior. So we behave, the behavior here is depending on the position of that person. So that is our role. So my role here is as a lecturer. I show my own behavior, that is, I teach you. You hold a role as a student. Your position is a student. So your behavior is, or your role is to learn. Okay? To learn. So role is basically the behavior that we show that comes from our position inside an organisation. So what are your roles other than a student? So think about it. I am a lecturer. I am also a mother. I am also a sister. I am also a daughter. So those are the roles of each and every person. So every role here will have its own specific behavior to be performed. As the lecturer, I teach. But as a mother, I will have to maybe take care of my children. At the same time, I educate them, I train them to be a better person. See, I will show different kinds of behavior based on my position or my role. Okay, now we go to the role conflicts. Okay, we have our own roles, but sometimes we face role conflicts. Okay, so this is quite important. In this chapter, you turn to page 30 that explains to you about role conflict. The definition given here is a situation in which an individual is confronted with divergent role expectations, which occurs due to different perceptions and expectations of a person's role. People will have different expectations on certain roles. Okay, you don't have to worry about the meaning of role conflict. What I can say simply a role conflict here means we have different perception on other people's roles. So because of we don't have the same perceptions of the role of a person, it will lead to role conflict. Okay, for example, I have a perception on my role as a teacher or lecturer, that is to teach you, but you have a different perception towards my role as a lecturer. Okay, you perceive that as a lecturer, the lecturer has to take care of all the students' problem and try to solve all the students' problem. You see, my perception is different, your perception is another thing. So this will result in role conflict. So don't worry so much about the definition. We go to the more important part for the role conflict here, that is the types of role conflict. Okay, now we go to the types of role conflict, which you can see on page 30. Okay, there are 6 types altogether: intra-sender, inter-sender, inter-role, person role, role overload, and role ambiguity. So I'm going to explain to you the first 3 types of role conflict, and the last 3 I will assign to you to read and try to answer in your own way. Okay, based on your reading, try to put it in your own way to explain the last 3. Okay, intra-sender role conflict. Okay, you see on page 30. It is, okay, this conflict occurs when a person transmits incompatible expectations or conflicting and inconsistent expectations to a role holder. This means that the role holder is expected to perform tasks or accomplish objectives which are incompatible and inconsistent with one another. So the definition given here is quite long, and there are words which are quite difficult to understand here. So I'll try to simplify for you so that you understand the meaning of inter-sender role conflict. Okay, it occurs when a person transmits incompatible expectations or conflicting and inconsistent expectation to a role holder. So intra-sender happens this way. Okay, this is the manager, this is the employee. Okay, so this manager is called as the role sender. Okay, role sender, and this is the role holder, orang yang akan membuat role tu. Okay, membuat tugas, okay, yang mempunyai peranan untuk menyiapkan tugas. So intra-sender here happens when this role sender, okay, in this textbook it is called as a person transmits, a person who transmits. So this is the manager or the role sender, transmit incompatible expectation. Expectation is basically the instruction, arahan. So arahan yang diberikan by the role sender here or the manager here to this role holder or the employee here is incompatible. Incompatible here means not match. Not match means they cannot be done at the same time. Ini instructions, more than one instruction. Okay, so this manager give 2 instructions, let's say minimum is 2 2 instructions to this employee or the role holder here, and these two instructions here do not match with one another. Do not match here means both of the instructions cannot be performed at the same time altogether. Tak boleh dilaksanakan dalam masa yang serentak. Impossible to be done. Okay. Why is it called as intra-sender? Because it involves only one person giving the instruction. Seorang saja yang beri arahan, but there are so many instructions at the same time. Okay, example given in your textbook is when a boss instructs a supervisor. Okay, boss is the manager here. Supervisor is the employee here. Okay, boss instructs a supervisor to place more emphasis on quality while at the same time demanding greater quantity. So manager here, the first instruction given here is to increase the quantity. So this manager wants the employee here to increase the quantity of production. And the second instruction here is the manager wants the same employee to increase the quality. Okay. So these two instructions or expectations, increase quality and increase quantity, they are called as do not match or inconsistent. Inconsistent. Why? Because it is impossible to perform these two roles at the same time. Why? If the employee were to perform the first instruction, that is to increase the quantity of the production, it is impossible for the employee to increase quality because of the employee will have to do the job very fast. Nak increase quantity kan, kena buat kerja cepat. So when the job is done very fast, then how to check the quality? So impossible to check the quality. Okay, and in another situation, if this employee were to perform the second instruction, that is to increase the quality, katalah employee ni pilih nak increase quality. So the employee here will have to work very slowly to check the item produced one by one because to ensure the quality is good. So the employee cannot perform this role anymore, that is to increase the quantity. So kedua-dua role ni ataupun task ni cannot be done at the same time. So that is why it is called as intra-sender role conflict. So who is in the conflict? This employee is having the intra-sender role conflict. So employee ni lah yang berada dalam konflik. Which instruction to perform or which role to perform? Is it to increase the quantity or to increase the quality? So the employee is in the conflict. Okay, now the second one is the inter-sender. Okay, this is the difference from between the second and the first one. The previous one was intra-sender. The second one is inter-sender. Okay, inter-sender here happens. Okay, we look at the definition first. This conflict happens when two or more individuals place incompatible demands upon a person. In other words, one individual expects the role holder to perform a role that is incompatible with the role expected by another individual. Okay, so inter-sender here happens when two role senders give conflicting or incompatible instructions or demand to one employee. So this is the employee, this is manager 1, this is manager 2, and these two managers, manager 1 give instructions to this employee, and these two instructions are not matched, which we call as incompatible. Okay, so the example given here is the quality control manager wants the supervisor to maintain quality levels by rejecting more low quality products. But on the other hand, the finance manager wants the supervisor to reduce costs by rejecting fewer products. So this is the quality control manager. What he wants is to reject more. Okay, to reject more, have high reject so that have high quality. But the finance manager over here give another instruction to the same employee here, who is the supervisor in the example, to reject less. Reject less in order to reduce the cost. So seorang bagi arahan you have to reject more so that we can maintain the quality to this supervisor or to this employee. And another manager says to the same employee, you have to reject less. Make sure you have less reject items so that we can reduce the cost. Okay? So, what will happen to this employee? So, this employee will be in conflict, which we call as the inter-sender role conflict, because this employee doesn't know which instruction to follow, whether it is from the manager number 1 or manager number 2. Okay? I can give you a simple example as well. Let's say, I teach you OB and Madam Shakira teach you PR, MKT 310. I come to your class, I say to you, I want all of you to stand up so that I can give you extra marks, bonus marks, 3 marks. Then later Madam Shakira comes in and say to you at the same time, I want you to sit down. Then I will give you extra marks of 3 marks. So you will be having this conflict, which we call as the inter-sender role conflict. 2 lecturers give you different instructions and the 2 instructions are not matched with one another. Not matched here means you cannot perform or follow the instruction at the same time. 2 instructions at the same time. So what will you do? Stand up or sit down? Okay? If you don't stand up, I will deduct your marks. If you don't sit down, Madam Shakira will deduct your marks. So what are you going to do? You are in this inter-sender. Why is it called as inter-sender? Because it involves 2 person giving the instruction. Tadi 1 person saja. Alright. Okay. Now we go to the third one, that is inter-role conflict. Okay. Inter-role conflict as defined here is, this conflict arises when an individual occupies more than one role with inconsistent expectation. In other words, certain roles expected of a person are in conflict with other roles that the person holds. This situation is also referred to as clashing expectations from separate roles within the same person. Okay, inter-role here happens when one person is having so many roles at the same time. Seseorang individual has so many roles. You are now a student. This is your first role. You are also a child to your parents. You are a secretary of one club. Okay, and you have so many other roles. Okay, so let's say today on Monday, I want you to come to my class at 10 a.m. because we are going to have a test 10 a.m. today. So you have to perform your role as a student, that is to come to my class to sit for the test. At the same time, your mother calls you saying to you, okay, Ahmad, Intan, I want you to come home now because I'm going outstation now. So you have to be home around 8 a.m. because you have to take care or you have to babysit your little sister. So you have to be home latest by 10 a.m. I want you to babysit. So your mother wants you to perform your role as a child, come back home to babysit your little sister. Then you are a secretary of taekwondo club. The pengurusi of this taekwondo club calls you, Intan, we are having a meeting at 10 a.m. today. I want you to come to the meeting and take the minutes. You have to be here by hook or by crook 10 a.m. for a meeting. So you are this person. So you are in conflict which role to perform, as a student to take the test, as a child to be home, or as a secretary to be in a meeting. So what are you going to do? If you don't come to class, you miss the test and you don't get any marks. If you don't be home, your younger sister will be left alone. It is very dangerous. If you are not in the meeting, then nobody is going to take the minutes of the meeting. So you will be scolded by the chairman. So you face the conflict. That conflict is called as the inter-role conflict. Konflik yang berlaku antara satu role dengan satu role yang lain, and you tak tahu mana satu nak buat dulu. So I hope you understand the first three roles here. Okay, if you don't understand, please ask. So for the next three types of role conflict here, okay, person role conflict, role overload, and role ambiguity, I want you to read from the textbook first. Read from the textbook and then search from the internet and then try to understand what you have read. Then I want you to explain the meaning of these three types of role. Okay, now we go to status. Also the next term that you need to understand in a social system. So the definition for status is the social rank or position of a person in a group in relation to others. So the meaning of status here is rank, social rank. Rank here means kedudukan seseorang, or position, jawatan seseorang. So they are actually the same thing, kedudukan and pangkat of a person in a group. In a group here means in an organisation lah, when they work together as a group in an organisation. So definitely each and every person will have his or her own rank and position. So that is called as status, kedudukan kita dalam sesebuah organisation. With it comes certain degree of recognition, honor and acceptance given by the society to that person or to a person. So the second point here says, by holding that status which comes from our position, the society will recognize, honor here means respect, and accept us at certain degree, or there is a certain kind or certain level of acceptance and also respect and also recognition given by the people toward us. Okay, the example is in UiTM. Okay, before I give you an example, to understand status, we understand in terms of higher status or lower status. Okay, cara nak sebut status ni, high status or low status. Someone is at high status and another person might be at a low status depending on the rank and position. Okay, for example, in UiTM Kedah, who is having the highest status is definitely the rector. Why rector is having the highest status? Because he is having the highest position. He is at the highest position because he is the rector. Okay, and cleaners, makcik cleaner. Cleaners in UiTM Kedah, we might say that they are having a lower status. Why are they having a lower status? Because of their position is low. They are just cleaners compared to the rector. What about students? Students are at the lowest status in UiTM. Why? Because of they are in the lowest position in UiTM Kedah. So how do people around us or outside UiTM respect these three kinds of people? Are they giving the same respect, the same recognition and the same way of acceptance, the way they accept the rector, cleaners and students? Sama ataupun tak? Okay, orang di persekitaran kita ni terima rector ataupun respect rector ni sama ke tak dengan the way the people respect and accept the students? Tak sama kan? So that is meant by the second point here. The society means other people. The society here respect a person based on the status of that person. Okay, orang yang statusnya tinggi sebab pangkat dia tinggi, people will have high respect to these people. Okay, for example rector. But those who are at lower status, such as the cleaners and the students, because of their lower position, people will have low respect and also low acceptance towards these people. Okay, so in order for the public or the society to respect you more, please make sure that you earn higher status. But because of your status now is as a student, so people will not respect you as much as people respect the rector. So you have to increase your status. How? Try to become someone or somebody, and try to be at higher level, having a higher level of education, so that you can earn higher position, then people will respect you. Okay, so how do people get their status? Macam mana kita dapat status tertentu? Kenapa rector tu berada di status yang tertinggi? Kenapa you berada di status yang terendah? Okay, so these reasons or the factors that determine this, the status of a person, we call it as the sources of status. You can see on page 33. Actually, there are a lot of sources of status that influence or that determine a person to get that kind of level or that kind of status. So some of the sources as given here as in your textbook are the education level, okay, job level, ability, skill, seniority, salary, and there are many more. Okay, the example I gave you previously in the previous slide, comparing you and the rector. A person, the rector is at the highest status, you, the student, is at the lowest status. What determines that kind of status? We can see clearly it is this one, the level of education. The rector is having a PhD as the level of education. And what about you? What is your level of education? You are still an SPM holder. So there is a huge difference between these two. So that's why rector is having higher status and you are having lower status. Job level here is actually the position, jawatan. Okay, what is the position of rector? Rector lah. What is your position? Student. So because of these two different positions, which we call as job level, that determines the status of that person. Abilities, skills, these are actually can be said as the experience of a person. Experience. Okay, a person who has a lot of experience will definitely have high abilities and also high skills. Abilities and skills ni dia macam knowledge in doing something, okay? Pengetahuan dalam melakukan tugas. So because of the person has a lot of abilities and also skills in doing something, then that person will have high status. Okay. Same goes to seniority. Seniority means the working, not the year of service in the organization. Year of service, not age. Seniority is determined by the year of service, how long the employee has been working inside the organization. So the longer the person works inside the organization, the more senior that person is. Same goes to you. You are now in Part 4, compared with Part 1 students, you are the seniors. So who has more status, who has higher status? Definitely you, the seniors, right? Because you know a lot. Salary can be a source of status as well. Those who earn a lot of salary or high salary can be at higher status. Those who earn lower salary will be at lower status. This comes from the job level of a person. Okay, salary ni kita selalu linkkan dia dengan job level or the position of a person. Position as a manager, definitely high salary. Position as a clerk, definitely low salary. So people, these two people will have different status. So there are a lot more you can look at in your textbook, and also you can also search if you have time. Now the status symbols. It is the visible external things attached to a person and serve as evidence of social rank. So status symbol here is basically something that is outside a person, that is the external thing. And visible here means can be seen, external means outside, visible means can be seen, attached to a person, yang berada bersama dengan orang tu, seseorang, and serve as evidence. Evidence here means a proof of a social rank, a proof of a person's ranking or a person's status. So status symbol is secara mudahnya benda yang kita boleh nampak yang berada bersama dengan seseorang, and by looking at this status symbol, we know what is the status of that person or what is the ranking or the position of that person. Okay, benda yang kita nampak di luaran, tengok je benda tu, kita tahu dia ni ranking dia tinggi ataupun rendah, dia ni status dia tinggi ataupun rendah. That is the status symbol. Okay. Okay, so these are the examples of status symbol as given in the textbook. There are a lot as well. For example, that I can easily give you here is the company car. When you see someone driving a company car, someone who is given a car with UITM logo, okay, and he is driving, other than the drivers, and he is driving and he can bring that car to his home and he can use that car, and that car is given by the company. So we already know that that person is at a higher rank and that person is having a higher status. Okay, tu kita panggil status symbol. Simbol yang kita nampak dan kita tahu dia tu siapa. A job title, president, professor, and so on. Okay, doctor, okay, prof, Dr. Abdullah. This is the name of the rector. Prof. Doctor, it is actually the job title. So by looking at this title, Prof. Doctor, then we already know that that person maybe is at the higher status. What is my job title? Puan Uli. Okay, so the job title is Puan. Is it, by looking at this on my job title, do you think that I am having the same status as this person, Professor, Doctor? Definitely no, I am at a lower status, and definitely this person is having a higher status. And assign secretary. Some people, they are given a secretary to help them out to perform their job. Okay, for example, the rector, he has his own secretary, the personal assistant, the PA. Then we know he is somebody here. He is having a higher status and a higher position. And what about the lecturers? Are we having any secretary or personal assistants? No, we do our own job. We have to do everything on our own. Then we know we don't have the secretary. We are at a lower ranking, lower status. How about you students? Do you have any secretary to take down any information from the lecturers for you, to schedule your timetable, or to do anything for you? Do you have any secretary? Definitely no. Then you are at the lower status, right? Special facilities, fax, phone, office. This is also called as special facilities. Office. Do you have your own office, students? To study. Your office is at the library. No, that is not counted. The rector has his own office, but a very, very big office. He has his own phone. He has his own fax machine, and so many more facilities given to him. So we know that he is having the highest status because these are all the symbols that we can see. Ini adalah semua simbol, simbol, status symbol. Okay, the lecturers, yes, we have our own phone given in the office as well, but we don't have this fax machine given to us. We have the office, but we have quite a small office, not as the office given to the rector. So we are at the moderate status maybe. What about cleaners? Do they have any office? They don't have any official office, but they have a place for them to rest that is under the stairs. So that is not counted as their office. What about you students? Do you have any office as I asked before? Then you answer yourself. So there are a lot more status symbols. So as for the students, what are your status symbols? Okay, next is organizational culture. Okay, it is under item 2.3 on page 34. Okay, for this part, organizational culture, we will only cover a small part of this subtopic, not everything. So don't worry about 2.4 and all. So we are going to cover only 2.3, 0.1, and also 0.2. Okay, that's all. So let's see what is the meaning of culture first. Okay. So, culture is a system of shared meaning held by organizational members that distinguishes the organization from other members or other organizations. It is a set of assumptions, beliefs, values, and norms shared by everyone in an organization. So culture is acquired from the society. So system of shared meaning held by the organizational members. So culture here is shared by everybody in the organization. Organizational members here means all employees inside the organization. That distinguishes here means differentiate, membezakan the organization from other organizations. So what is meant by this point here is that every organization has its own organizational culture, has its own culture. And this culture is shared by everybody, all the employees inside an organization. And by having this culture, it differentiates one organization to the other organization. So setiap organisation tu ada budaya, culture, dan setiap organisation mempunyai budaya yang berbeza dan membezakan satu organisation dengan organisation yang lain. So the first point here is not actually the meaning of culture. Okay, this is actually the definition. It is a set of assumptions, beliefs, values and norms shared by everyone in an organisation. So culture ni adalah andaian, kepercayaan, nilai-nilai dan norma-norma yang dikongsi oleh setiap orang dalam organisation. So to simplify this point, culture here means the regular practice or the regular behaviour of every employee inside the organisation. Tingkah laku ataupun amalan yang selalu dibuat, yang diamalkan oleh setiap organisation, setiap pekerja dalam organisation. Amalan, kepercayaan, whatever we do inside our organisation and is shared by everybody is doing the same thing, that is called as culture. An easy example to give you is the culture of UiTM compared to the culture of UKM, let's say. What is the culture that we have in UiTM that differentiates us from other universities, for example UKM? Okay, a very obvious and clear thing is the medium of language that we use in UiTM. So our regular practice, our regular behavior in the UiTM is that we use English as our medium to give lectures, to do the presentation and to answer the questions. What about UKM? Most of the time they use Malay language as their medium. Even to answer the questions, to give the lectures, to learn and so on in classes, they use Malay language. So that is the culture of UiTM compared with the culture of UKM. Okay. So culture here is acquired from the society. Culture ni datang daripada masyarakat, society that we belong to. Okay. So in Malaysia we have so many societies. Okay, we have Malay societies. Okay, the example I'm going to give you here is not related to an organisation. This is related to our daily life. We have Chinese societies and we have Indian societies. So these are the three major societies in Malaysia. Do we have the same regular practice or regular behaviour? No, right? Just look at the way we eat. The way we eat. Malays, we eat using our hand. Chinese, they eat using chopstick. And Indian, yes, they also use their hand to eat. So you just forget about Indian. It might confuse you. You just look at these two. You are Malays. Who taught you to use hand in order to eat, to have rice for lunch? Your mother. And your mother got it from their parents as well. So it is transferred by the society because we belong to Malay society. We learn from our society. In order to eat, we use our hand. What about Chinese? Who taught them to use chopstick to eat? It is definitely their parents, and their parents got from their grandparents and so on. So because of they belong to Chinese society, that's why they eat using chopstick, because their society teach them to use chopstick in order to have their meal. So that is our regular practice. That regular practice is called as the culture. Cara makan kita itu adalah budaya kita. Cara makan Cina adalah budaya dia, menggunakan chopstick. When we go to other people's house, what do? We take off our shoes, right? What about Westerners? When they go to someone's house, they just go inside without taking off their shoes. That is their culture, and that is our culture as well. So our regular practice, what we do regularly, that is our culture. Okay, so that is the meaning of culture. So that's why it is called culture is acquired from society, meaning that setiap orang mendapat culture tu daripada masyarakat where they belong. Okay. Now, let's see this. How do cultures change? But before we go to how do cultures change, answer this question. Can we change our culture or not? Okay, this slide here says yes, but you just look at your life. You have been taught to use your hand in order to have your meal. But now I want you to change your regular behavior from using your hand to using chopstick now to have your meal. Can you change your culture or not? Daripada kecil sampai umur 20, you pakai tangan untuk makan nasi. And now, instantly I want you to change. To switch from using your hand to using the chopstick to have your meal. Can you change your culture? Okay, some people might say yes, some people might say no. So actually, culture here can be changed. Okay. So there are two ways culture change. Later I will use the same example as chopstick and using your hand just now. The first way of culture change is called as cultural revolution. Okay? Cultural revolution. What is meant by revolution? It is a dramatic change. Dramatic here means very fast. Culture that change very fast. Perubahan culture yang sangat drastic. It is a drastic change, a fast change. So what will be the impact of cultural revolution here is the cultural shock and high stress among employees. Okay, so I'm going to use the same example just now. You have been using your hand to have your meal, to eat rice, to have your lunch. Now, I want you to change instantly from using your hand to using chopstick and you have to finish one plate of rice. Can you change your culture or not? Okay. So what kind of culture change is that? That is called as cultural revolution, a drastic change required from an employee. Okay, saya nak you buat perubahan drastik. So definitely you cannot change. Okay, if you change pun, you will feel so stressed and it will be a cultural shock. These are the impacts. So is it good, cultural revolution? It is not good because it leads to bad impact to the employees, bad impact to you. You rasa stress. Macam mana nak tukar daripada tangan makan dengan chopstick? Okay, you will spend about 2-3 hours to finish one plate of rice because you don't know how to use that chopstick. Okay, there is another way that culture can change, which we call as cultural evolution. This cultural evolution is where the culture change gradually and slowly. You see this word gradually? Gradually here means slowly. The opposite of drastic and dramatic. So cultural evolution is where employees or people are given time to accept the change and to be prepared for the change. Pekerja ataupun setiap orang ni diberi masa untuk bersedia dengan change. So I'm going to use the same example. I want you to change from using your hand to have your meal to using chopstick, but I give you 1 month to practice. Example tadi, I don't give you any time. I want you to change instantly. That's why I use the word instantly. Now, definitely you cannot. It will lead to stress. But cultural evolution, I give you time. Okay, I want you to practice to use chopstick for 1 month. Then later, after 1 month, we implement the change. So that is called as cultural evolution, culture that change gradually and slowly. So is this good? Definitely this is better than revolution because employees won't feel stress. So there will be less stress. Why? Because employees are given time for them to be prepared and to learn. So which one do you prefer? Definitely evolution, and most organizations go for cultural evolution. So how to give examples on these two? You can use the same example, but just differentiate in terms of the time that you use. Tadi cultural revolution, I use the word instant. Instant maksudnya segera. Sekarang juga berubah. Evolution, I said I give you 1 month. So, you use the same example but you differentiate in terms of time given to the employees to change. So, that already reflect revolution and evolution, and also stress on ataupun focus on the mention on the impact of these two types of cultural change. Satu high stress, satu less stress, and this is the one that is preferred. Okay. Okay, as usual, so these are the discussion questions that will help you in your exam and also your quiz. Okay, thank you for this chapter. Hope you understand what I have explained to you. Please ask if you don't understand on certain things. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.